What's going on YouTube? It's the Mana Dorks here. My name is Jeremy, and today I'm bringing you a deck tech video on one of my favorite decks that I play today. It is Elves, and I'm going to go over it and tell you what I run, the strategies that I like to use, and how much I enjoy this commander. So let's dive right into it. So the commander for today's deck tech is Dionus, Elvish Archdruid, a mono green commander with 1 green, 3 generic CMC. Elf Druid 3/3 body. With a very nice static effect, elves you control have whenever this creature becomes tapped during your turn, untap it and put a 1/1 counter on it. This ability only triggers once each turn. So each one of your creatures get that effect once per turn. If they become tapped, they will untap. So it's really good for combat tricks. It's combat tricks every turn. If you swing out, you can go attack with your elf. It will untap before blockers are declared, getting the 1/1 counter, making it a little bit bigger and harder to deal with. So now we're going to dive into the creature portion. Starting off with some 1-drops. We have Fyndhorn Elves, Elvish Mystic, Arbor Elves. These are the 3 basic mana dorks for green, all 1 green, tap for green, 1/1 bodies. Elf druids, all really good, and they help speed out everything else that you need. Next we have Heritage Druid, Jaspera Sentinel, and Joraga Treespeaker. Sorry about that. Heritage Druid is a 1 green, 1/1 elf druid with the nice ability of tap 3 untapped elves you control to add 3 green to your mana pool. So it doesn't matter if you just played her, the summoning sickness doesn't matter. All in all, it's just great to get 3 mana really quick. Jaspera Sentinel, 1 green, 1/2 body elf rogue with reach, so it helps deal with some flying. Tap this elf and tap an untapped creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. So pay 2 to get 1, unfortunately, but in this deck that's not much of an issue. Then you have Joraga Treespeaker, a 1 green elf druid that starts off with as a 1/1, and it has level up for a green and a colorless. Levels 1 through 4, this elf will tap for 2 green mana and it becomes a 1/2 body. Level 5 plus, elves you control have tap, add 2 green to your mana pool, so it makes all your elves mana dorks. So bear in mind with these 6 elves that I have just showcased, all work with Dionus. So the minute these elves become tapped for mana, they will untap, get a 1/1 counter, and then you could double out your mana output if you wanted. So next, we got more 1-drops. These are more utility elves that will help benefit your strategy. We have Joraga Warcaller. We have Arbor Elf, Allosaurus Shepherd. So these 3 each have good stats and effects for the deck. Joraga Warcaller, 1 green for a 1/1 with multi-kicker, green and a colorless. Joraga Warcaller enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each time it was kicked. And then has the stack effect of other elves you control get +1/+1 for each 1/1 counter on Joraga Warcaller. So if you're able to kick it a few times, give him 3 counters, he's already a 4, so it makes him a 4/4 and giving all your elves +3/+3. Not to mention with Dionus, you swing with him or use him for tap outlet for Jaspera Sentinel. You'll untap him, give him more counters, pumping all your elves bigger. Arbor Elf, 1 green for a 1/1 elf druid with tap to untap target forest. So really self-explanatory, just a staple elf in the deck. Gets you more mana and you're able to untap him due to the commander and do it again. So just extra ramp to keep you going. Allosaurus Shepherd is a 1-green 1/1 Elf Shaman. He cannot be countered, and green spells you control can't be countered. So your whole deck becomes uncounterable because you're playing mono green. And he has 2 green for generic. Until the end of your turn, each elf creature you control has a base power and toughness of 5/5 and becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other types. So they still maintain their elf types, but they become 5/5 dinosaurs as well. So if you still have Joraga on the board and he's got like 6/1/1 counters, you got 11/11 staring down your opponents. Very nice. Then we have Taunting Elf and Essence Warden. So Essence Warden is a 1-green Elf Shaman for 1/1. Whenever another creature enters into play, you gain 1 life. So I run Essence Warden as in a form of survivability. Keeps you alive longer because you can play a lot of elves. If anyone else plays a bunch of creatures for him, you're gaining a bunch of life. And it's just an elf. So for 1 drop, it's really good. Then one of my favorites in the deck, Taunting Elf. 1 green for a 0/1. All creatures able to block Taunting Elf do so. So if you have like the Joraga Warcaller combo and your Allosaurus Shepherd, making all your elves really big, and you have Taunting Elf, you can swing out on someone and all their creatures able to block have to block Taunting Elf. So you're guaranteed to go for a kill shot if you can pull this off. So it's a good way to get some evasion on swinging. And then finally, a card that goes great with Taunting Elf, Glistener Elf. A 1-green elf warrior with 1/1 and just straight up infect. You want to be that player, you can just swing with him and do some poison. So with Taunting Elf, you can poison people out. And with him getting bigger and bigger due to Dionus, it's a good way to try and end games for just 1 mana on a creature. That does it for the 1-drop creatures. So now we're going to go into 2 drops. Starting off with the mana dorks, we have Priest of Titania and Gyre Sage. Priest of Titania is a 1-green 1 generic elf druid, 1/1, and tap to add green for each elf on the battlefield, not just elves you control. So if other people are running elf mana dorks, you're benefiting off of that with Priest of Titania. And with that being a pseudo, literally it's a pseudo Gaia's Cradle, but only for elves. You can tap her, get a bunch of mana, and she'll untap due to your commander, giving her a 1/1 counter, and tap her again. So it's just a bunch of mana to spend. Then we have Gyre Sage, a 1-green 1 generic 1/2 elf druid with evolve. So whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it has greater power or toughness than this creature, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. And then had some mana dork to tap for green for each 1/1 counter on Gyre Sage. So even if you don't have any counters, you can still tap it for nothing because it has no counters. Dionus will see it, you'll untap and put a counter on it. So and then you can start spending and investing. Really good for the deck, and it builds up really quick. Next is some utility 2-drops. So we have Leaf Crown Visionary, Elvish Warmaster, and Seeker of Skybreak. So Leaf Crown Visionary is 2 green 1/1 elf druid. Other elves you control get +1/+1, so it's a lord. And whenever you cast an elf spell, you may pay a green. If you do, draw a card. So it's a draw engine in itself. You have plenty of mana to spend in that, and 99% of your creatures are elves. So it just pays for itself overall. Then we have Elvish Warmaster, a 1-green 1 generic 2/2 elf warrior. Whenever 1 or more other elves enter the battlefield under your control, you create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. This ability only triggers once each turn. And then you have his his activated ability of 2 green, 5 generic. Elves you control get +2/+2 and death touch till the end of the turn. So you can use that in a defensive maneuver. You can use that in an offensive maneuver. Make your elves a little bit bigger, give them some death touch, kill some creatures. So it's really nice. We have Seeker of Skybreak, a 1 green, 1 generic elf with 2/1, and it has the ability to tap him and untap target creature. So tapping him to untap one of your pseudo cradle elves, you'll untap him and give him a counter, and you can tap this a total of 3 times, or no, 4 times, to get 4 times the amount, because you can use him twice. So it's just a great way to utilize your mana dorks, or if you, even after you swing out, you still have untapped elves to block with. It's just overall a great utility creature to keep something unblocked or to use effects over and over. Next we have Well-Wisher, Bramblewood Paragon, and Fauna Shaman. So we'll start with Well-Wisher. This elf is great. It's a 1 green, 1 generic elf, 1/1, and it has the ability you tap, gain 1 life for each elf in play. So not just your elves, every elf. And with it being a tap effect, if this is done during your turn, Dionus will see it, untap it, give her a counter, tap her again, get some more life. Oh, and then you have the Seeker of Skybreak, tap to untap this, to tap it again, get more life, and then you'll untap. It's just crazy. Great. She's really good for survivability. Bramblewood Paragon is a 1 green, 1 generic elf warrior, 2/2. Each other warrior creature you control comes into play with an additional 1/1 counter on it. Most of your elves are druids, but if you do, the few elf warriors you play will get an additional 1/1 counter when they come in. And then, due to your commander giving them 1/1 counters as they untap, it plays really well into his static. Each creature you control with a 1/1 counter has trample. So static trample in the form of an elf, get your elves big enough and you're still hitting pretty hard. And then you have Fauna Shaman, a 1 green, 1 generic elf shaman, 2/2, with pay a green, tap, discard a creature card, search your library for a creature, and put it to your hand, reveal it, shuffle your library. So literally Summoner's Pact in the form of a creature, or food chain, or whatever it is. You sack a creature, get another creature. But with it being a good creature too, you can get the elves you need, and you tap it to do so. It'll untap, so it's at least twice per turn you can tutor for something that you need to help you end the game. Alrighty, so that does it for all the 2-drops. So we're going to go into the 3-drop elves, starting with the dorks. We have Elvish Archdruid, Circle of Dreams Druid, Savala, Heart of the Wilds. Elvish Archdruid's 2 green, 1 generic elf druid, 2/2. That it has the static ability of other elves you control get +1/+1. So it's a lord as well, and has tap, add a green for each elf you control. So it's another pseudo cradle. So it's just another way you can double out its mana output. Really great. Then Circle of Dreams Druid is 3 green elf druid, 2/1, and is literally Gaia's Cradle in the form of an elf. Tap to add green mana for each creature you control, not just elves. So another way to double out your mana output. And then we have Savala, Heart of the Wilds, a 2 green, 1 generic legendary creature, elf scout. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its owner may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. Most of your elves are pretty small, so you probably won't get to utilize that much. And most opponents won't get to either, due to you pumping your elves really quick with the 1/1 counters and your lords. but we're more interested in its mana dork effect. Pay a green, tap it, add X mana of any combination of colors to your mana pool, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Your elves get pretty big pretty quick, so she ends up paying for herself in the end. And then we have Marwyn the Nurturer and Elvish Harbinger. So Marwyn the Nurturer, a 1 green 2 generic legendary creature elf druid. Whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, she gets a 1/1 counter. And then she is similar to Gyre Sage, but instead she's a mana dork in terms of her power. So you tap her to add a green equal to her power. So she gets big pretty quick, and she'll eventually pay off really well. Starts off with 1, so you're guaranteed at least 1. Then we have Elvish Harbinger, a 1 green 2 generic elf druid 1/2. When Elvish Harbinger comes into play, you may search your library for an elf card, reveal it, shuffle your library, and put that card on top. And then she also taps for 1 mana of any color. So a nice tutor for any elf card to put on top of your deck if you have a way to draw it, which you do have draw spells. And a mana dork, so she pays for herself. All right, we're going into some utility creatures that are CMC of 3. We have Eldamari Court of Veil, Evolution Witness, and Elvish Champion. Eldamari Court of Veil is a 2 green 1 generic elf warrior legendary creature 3/3 that lets you look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast creature spells from the top of your library. But he has a very nice activated ability, paying a green, tapping him, and then you also tap 2 untapped creatures, reveal a card from your hand or the top of your library. If you reveal a creature card this way, you put it straight to the battlefield, and you can only do this during your turn. So sorcery speed type effect has to be done during your turn, but it guarantees you a creature drop. It could be a 4-drop elf for 1 mana, and you have to tap to invest into it, which will let you untap, so you're literally not losing anything. Then we have Evolution Witness, a 1 green 2 generic elf shaman mutant 2/1 with adapt 2. You pay a green and the colors to adapt 2, so you put 2 1/1 counters on it. And then it says whenever 1 or more 1/1 counters are put onto Evolution Witness, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a good recursion elf. You adapt if it doesn't have any counters, but just swinging out with it or tapping it into cost effects, which will use Dionus to untap and put a counter on it, so it will guarantee to recur stuff. Next is Elvish Champion, probably one of the strongest elves in this entire deck. 2 green 1 generic elf 2/2. Other elves you control get +1/+1 and have Forest Walk. So all your elves are unblockable as long as the defending player has a forest. So if you're going up against green players, you're going to have a field day if you can get her out on the board and swarm the board. That's just unblockable elves ready to smack people in the face. All right. Let's see. Now we have some more green 3 drops that have more utility in different ways. So we have Galadhrim Brigade and Imperious Perfect. Galadhrim Brigade is a 1 green 2 generic elf soldier 2/2 and has the static lord ability of all your other elves get +1/+1, and this also possesses squad. So as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may pay an additional green colors any number of times. When this creature enters the battlefield, create that many tokens of it. So if you, with all your mana dorks and how much mana you can put in, you can make a bunch of this guy and make your elves really huge, really fast. Then we have Imperious Perfect, a 1 green, 2 generic elf warrior with 2/2, and other elves you control get +1/+1, so it's another lord. And also has pay a green, tap it, create a 1/1 green elf creature token. Elf warrior, sorry. So she can spit out tokens to get you more bodies. That can trigger Elvish Warmaster to give you another token. And they are all getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally, the last 3 drops that we have are for trying to end games. We have Enzuri Renegade Leader and Tavar the Pummeler. Enzuri Renegade Leader is a 2 green, 1 generic elf warrior legendary creature, 2/2, with the activated ability of pay a green, regenerate another target elf. So if your elves would die by damage or by battle or destroyed, pay a green, just tap them and keep them alive. And then the activated ability of 3 green, 2 generic elf creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until the end of the turn. So small mini Craterhoof, but enough to do what you need to win games. Then we have Tavar the Pummeler, a 1 generic, 2 green elf warrior legendary creature, 3/3. You tap with you have the activated ability of tap another untapped creature you control. Tavar the Pummeler gains indestructible until the end of the turn, then you tap him. So tapping any elf and tapping him to give him indestructible, which Dionus will see them get tapped, they'll untap, get a 1/1 counter. And then he has the activated ability of 2 green, 3 generic. Creatures you control get +X/+X until end of the turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So your average elf could be like a 4 or 5, and you're getting them all +4 or 5. Or you can combo him with the Shaman, or the Shepherd, sorry, the Allosaurus Shepherd. So all your elves will have a base power of 5, and not if you have lords, they're bigger, but using that, giving them all a bunch more power, just trying to end games. All right, let's go to 4 drops. The only mana dork we have in the 4-drop category is Canopy Tactician, a 1 green, 3 generic elf warrior, 3/3. That is also a lord in its own right. All your elves, other elves besides this one, get +1/+1, and then it taps and adds 3 green mana. So just it's really good to utilize for the mana and just being a lord. The utility 4 drops we have: Immaculate Magistrate, Dwyn Gilt-Leaf Dane, and Armorcraft Judge. Immaculate Magistrate, a 1 green, 3 generic elf shaman, 2/2, with tap, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control on target creature for each elf you control. So it doesn't have to be your creature. So if someone's trying to end someone else and they don't have the power, you can help them get the power they need, or you can do it for yourself. Swing out, and once they declare blockers, once you have an open elf that's hitting, tap Immaculate Magistrate, give it a bunch of 1/1 counters, she'll untap and redo it again, just to go for a kill shot. Dwyn Gilt-Leaf Dane is a 2 green, 2 generic elf warrior legendary creature with 3/4 with reach, so it can block flying. It is also a lord effect. Other elves you control get +1/+1. And then the nice triggered ability of whenever Dwyn attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking elf you control. So if you swing out, that's just life gain. So it's just really nice to give you some survivability and pump up your elves. And finally, we have Armorcraft Judge, a 1 green, 3 generic elf artificer, 3/3. When Armorcraft Judge enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. So the deck's all about the 1/1 counters, so you're going to have a bunch. So it's a good way to replenish your hand and keep resources going. All right. The only 6-drop elf we have Wolverine Riders, a 2 green 4 generic Elf Warrior 4/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get a 1/1 green Elf Warrior creature token. And then whenever another elf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to its toughness. So it's a good way to give you survivability, bodies, and it's just a good beat stick overall. And then finally, the last creature we have that is a non-elf is, of course, Craterhoof Behemoth. Self-explanatory, but I'll go over him. 3 green 5 generic for a beast 5/5, and he has haste. Whenever this creature enters, creatures you control get trample and +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control. So if you have 10 elves, all your creatures getting +11/11 because you have Craterhoof as well, and they have trample, so it's literally a game-ending creature. Alrighty. Let's go on to some artifacts. The mana rocks that we do run: Soul Ring, Springleaf Drum. These are the 2 1-drops that we run. Soul Ring is staple in every commander deck, should be banned. We all know this. Taps for 2 colorless. Then we have Springleaf Drum, a 1 generic artifact. Tap an untapped creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. So it plays good in the theme. You tap an elf to get mana if you didn't have a mana dork, and Dionus can untap that elf. So it's just really good to get you a color. Then we have Arcane Signet as the 2-drop. I mean, it's just a green rock that for 2 mana. And then finally, the best rock in the deck, Great Hinge, a 2 green 7 generic legendary artifact. This spell costs X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So the bigger your elves, the easier this is to play. It taps for 2 green mana, and you gain 2 life. And then whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gets a 1/1 counter, and you draw a card. So draw engine and building up them counters. Really good. And then some utility artifacts. We have Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves. So we got LeBrons and Jordans. Swiftfoot Boots is 2 generic, equip 1, equipped creature has hexproof and haste. So a good way to enable your mana dorks or attack early. Greaves is a 2-drop, 0 to equip. Equipped creature has haste and shroud, so a better version of hexproof. And haste to also initiate them dorks. And then the last utility artifact, Cloudstone Curio. So if you have the right cards for this, you could make infinite mana and get infinite draws. It's infinite life gain. It's just all about having the right stuff. So if you have the mana dorks you need, so say you have, we'll give an example. Let's see. We have an Elvish Mystic, and we'll go with Priestess Titania. So say we have Cloudstone Curio, Priestess Titania on the board, and our commander on the board. And some generic elves that don't do much. You'll tap Priestess Titania, 4 mana, for the mana that she generates for each elf on the battlefield. She'll untap due to Dionus, which is only once each turn. You use 1 of the mana to cast your Elvish Mystic. That will trigger your Cloudstone Curio, which for 3 mana says, whenever a non-artifact permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you may return another permanent you control that shares a permanent type with it. So you play a creature, you can return a creature. So you have, say you did 5 mana with Priestess Titania. So, and you did already untap her. You play your Elvish Mystic, return Dionus to your hand, recast her, and then you can tap. She'll untap again, and once she's cast, you return your Druid, your Mystic, and you can just repeat this loop and get infinite mana. If you have like Armorcraft Judge, get a bunch of draws. It's just really good for the deck to pop off if you can get it out there. All right, that's it for all the artifacts. So we're gonna go into some instant spells. Instants and sorceries, I apologize. We'll start with sorceries. This is the first sorcery play is removal. It's 1 green, 1 generic. Wear down sorcery, you can gift a card. So if you gift a card, that player gets to draw a card. But it destroys an artifact or enchantment. If you promise the gift, you can destroy 2 instead. So just extra removal for someone to draw. Some draw engine sorceries. We have Life's Legacy and Shamanic Revelation. Life's Legacy is a 1 green, 1 generic sorcery. As an additional cost to Life's Legacy, sacrifice a creature. Draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. So if you have a 4-drop or a 4-power creature, sack it, draw 4 cards, just to replenish your hand. And then Shamanic Revelation is 2 green, 3 generic sorcery. You draw a card for each creature you control. So if you have a board full of elves, it's great. And then you gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater, with the ferocious mechanic part. Most of your elves can get to that power relatively quick, so you have life gain as well as the draw. Next are token sorceries. So we have Elvish Promenade and Sylvan Offering. Elvish Promenade is a 1 green, 3 generic tribal sorcery elf, so it can be searched by your elf tier that says search for an elf card. Put a green 1/1 elf warrior token onto the battlefield for each elf you control. So you can double the amount of creatures you have, and being elf warriors, you can really benefit off that. They can enter with extra counters, and just all in all, really nice. Sylvan Offering is green X sorcery. Choose an opponent. You and that opponent each create an XX green treefolk creature token. And then you choose another opponent. You and that player create X 1/1 green elf warrior tokens. So normally you shouldn't be worried about your opponents getting anything off of this, because whatever you're getting is going to be more beneficial to you than what your opponents gain. But just mainly the elves is really nice. If you make a big tree folk, you can sacrifice it for Life's Legacy to draw some cards, but just a way to swarm the board with more elves. And then finally, our game-ending sorceries. Finale of Devastation and Triumph of Hordes. Finale of Devastation, 2 green X spell. You search your library for a creature card, mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get plus XX and haste. So it's a haste enabler, and pump your creatures to swing out. So you normally go for X10 and then search for Craterhoof to end the game. If you can't get Craterhoof or he's already gone, you have Triumph of Hordes, 2 green, 2 generic. Until the end of your turn, all creatures you control get +1/+1. They gain trample and also infect. So you can win via a poison to eliminate the players from the game. This one's a little bit of a salty card, but I understand the salt. But you need it for your elves to find other ways to win. All right, we're going to some instant spells now. We'll start with our removal instants. So we have Return to Nature, Collective Resistance, and Beast Within. So Return to Nature is a 1 green, 1 generic instant. Choose one. Destroy target artifact, target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard. So good spot removal, or if someone's trying to dig into their grave for a single target, you can hit that target and make their stuff fizzle. So just great card. Collective Resistance, a 1 green, 1 generic instant with Escalate. You may pay a green for each mode beyond the first. So you choose one for after you pay the original cost, and then a green for each one you want to do. So you can also destroy target artifact, target enchantment, or target creature gets hexproof and indestructible until the end of the turn. So you can use it for protection or spot removal of artifact and enchantment. Then Beast Within, 1 green, 2 generic instant. Destroy any permanent. Its controller gets a 3/3 beast. So you can hit troublesome lands, like anything that would give them a great benefit, or you can hit something that's really big or troublesome on the board, get rid of the Smothering Tithe, Ristic Study, whatever, and just give them a little beast for it that you can easily handle. Next, we got our protection instance. We have Heroic Intervention and Inspiring Call. Heroic Intervention is a 1 green, 1 generic instant. Permanents you control get hexproof and indestructible till the end of the turn. So it's a good way to protect all your board from being targeted and destroyed. So it's just a great staple for anything with green. Inspiring Call, 1 green, 2 generic instant. Draw a card for each creature with a 1/1 counter on it. So it's a draw engine. And all those creatures get indestructible till the end of the turn. So you can protect them from being board wiped by a destroy board wipe, or if something's going to destroy multiple at once, you got your Inspiring Call. Then you also net you cards from your hand. Alrighty. So now we have some utility instants. We have Summoner's Pact and Noxious Revival. Summoner's Pact's a 0-drop instant. Search your library for a green creature, reveal it, put it to your hand, shuffle your library. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you pay 2 green, 2 generic. If you don't, you lose the game. Which, in this deck, the amount of mana you generate, that cost means nothing. So, can't go wrong with a green tutor, or a free tutor to get any green creature that would help your deck win. Then Noxious Revival is Phyrexian green. You can pay 2 life or green mana. Put a card from a graveyard, so target card from a graveyard on top of its owner's library. So it can help you, you can help an opponent, use it as a bargain chip, but just great recursion. Then we have Concordant Crossroads as a haste enabler, 1-drop. Creatures can attack or activate abilities as though they just didn't come out, so it's just old printing. But yep, haste enabler for 1 mana enchantment. And then our utility enchantments. We have Greater Good and Awakening. 2 green, 2 generic for Awakening. Enchantment, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, you untap all creatures and all lands. So, good way to keep blockers. If you've double tapped to get your mana and you don't have any blockers, you'll have them afterwards. And you have access to your lands during other players' turns for instant spells. Greater Good, 2 green, 2 generic. Enchantment, sacrifice a creature, draw cards equal to that sacrificed creature's power, and then discard 3 cards. So normally if you have, like I said, an average 4 or 5 elf, you'll net 2 cards off of it, thin your deck. It's just a great draw engine to have. Especially since you make a bunch of elf tokens and you can get them pretty big with lords and everything. So just sacrificing those, all in all, just helps you out. What's so great about this elf deck is it is considered bracket 3. It can compete in bracket 4 with how powerful it is. Like if you pull the right cards, this deck only runs 2 Game Changers. And the 2 Game Changers I run are Crop Rotation and the One Ring. Crop Rotation, 1 green instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you sack a land. You search your library for any land card, put it onto the battlefield, shuffle your library. So it gets you one of your unique name lands that can give you a benefit, etc. Then we have the One Ring, a 4 generic legendary artifact with indestructible. when the One Ring enters the battlefield, if you've cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the One Ring, and then it has tap to put a burden counter on it, and you draw that many cards equal to the burden counters. So it's a draw engine that slowly bleeds you dry, but if you have the life gain elf, so you should be able to use it to its full extent. Alrighty, now we're going to go into the lands for you guys. So our unique name lands: Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, Path of Ancestry, Cavern of Souls, and the one MDFC, Garden of Freyalise. So, Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, each land is a forest in addition to its other types. That plays into your Elvish Champion, so now all your elves are unblockable for everyone. So you're going to hit everyone without any resistance. Path of Ancestry enters tapped, but you can spend mana of any color of your commander's identity, so it's a green land. And then if you use that to cast a creature type that shares the type with your commander, elf, you can scry, so it helps set up future plays and stuff like that. It's the only tap land that I do run. We have Cavern of Souls. As it enters, choose a creature type. Of course, elves. It taps for a generic, but you can also add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, and that spell can't be countered. So use it on your elves, protects you from blue or anything that would counter green. Just, it's a great land to have. And then finally the MDFC, Garden of Freyalise, is as it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters tapped, but normally you'll pay 3 if you want that green. And it taps for green. It's just a basic green that's a bolt land. And then it flips. And we have Disciple of Freyalise on this side. 3 green, 3 generic, Elf Druid, 3/3. When Disciple of Freyalise enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, gain X life, draw X cards, where X is that creature's power. So it's like a better version of Life's Legacy. And you just have a way to bounce it with Cloudstone Curio, and you can just utilize it over and over and over. Just a great card on both sides for whatever you need it to be. And then finally, the best land in the deck, Evanendo, Waking Haven. Planet, well, this is a tap land, so I did lie. I played one more tap land. But it taps for a green by itself, and then you can station it. So you tap your elves to put counters on it, which Dionus will untap them, give them counters, and you can retap them. So you can get this immediately at 12. Pay a green, tap it, and it's literally a Gaia's Cradle for 1 mana, for 1 green mana. So you invest 1 for Cradle. Love it. And then finally, the basic lands. We just play 30 forests. But that's the elf deck. It's really, really fun for a mono green deck. Its color pool is its weak spot. But if you can overcome that weakness, there's no doubt in my mind you can use Dionus to definitely elf ball some people and definitely show them what's what. It's a great budget deck for beginners. You can sack out the One Ring for like a cheaper draw spell. Most of the elves are fairly cheap. You can probably sub out Great Hinge for another rock if you wanted. But I definitely would recommend this deck for beginners trying to learn mechanics of Magic. But elves is a great archetype to learn from. Great creature pools, great effects. Just all in all, I love this deck. It's great. If you guys have any comments, like what you would suggest running with Dionus, I'm open to it. definitely. Honorable mentions, I did run the Elvish Spirit Guide originally to drop it from my hand just for 3 green mana. This deck really didn't need it. It goes off relatively quick on its own. There was a couple other elves I could have ran, like Reclamation Sage. I did run that, but I took it out for some more utility. Deck still does fine on its own without that. But other than that, yeah, comment anything you guys would want to change or see within the deck. And please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for the video. And I hope to see you guys soon with another deck tech. Thank you guys for watching. Mana Dorks signing off.